This morning we're heading out to the ancient ruins of Teotihuacan, which is a city that's even older than the Aztecs. In fact, we're not quite sure who built it. At least when I say we, I mean archaeologists don't really know.
The city had over 100,000 people when it was at its peak, so it was a big place. And today we're headed out there. We're going to try and keep our expenses down, so we're not taking a tour. We're actually going to take public transportation up there. It's 25 miles outside of the city, and we think we can do it for less than $20 a person.
Challenge accepted.
Teotihuacan is the most visited archaeological site in Mexico, and it's popular with Mexicans as well as foreign tourists. In fact, it's free to local residents on Sunday. And so in an attempt to avoid lines and crowds as much as possible, we are headed out on a weekday and pretty early in the morning. Wherever you're starting from, you're going to find your way to the nearest metro station and then navigate to the yellow line and head to the Autobuses del Norte stop, which is near the north end of the yellow line. From the North Bus Station, buses leave every 15 minutes for the 1-hour drive out to the pyramids. You'll want to walk all the way down the concourse to Gate 8 and look for a ticket booth with Los Piramides as an option. We purchased round-trip tickets and then headed out to the buses. Almost before we even saw the bus, the ticket takers recognized us as tourists and came out to meet us, so it was easy to find the right bus. We left the station about 9:30 in the morning and the bus was not crowded. We were the only obvious tourists on board. Along the way, we made a few other stops where people got on and off. There are 5 entry gates to the archaeological zone, and the bus stop is at Gate 2. The bus driver made sure we knew when to get off, so again, it was easy. You can hire a guide or purchase a tour that includes other points of interest here at Gate 2 if you like, but we continued on our own to the entrance gate. According to the on-site signage, at its peak between 100 and 250 AD, the city covered 14 square miles and had 175,000 inhabitants. The numbers I found in my online research were a bit more modest at 100,000 people and 8 square miles, but regardless, this was a huge city. Its origins seem to be a bit of a mystery, though. Archaeologists are unsure of just who the Teotihuacaners were, where they came from, or what language they spoke. Even the name currently used for the city itself comes from the language of the Aztecs, who didn't come along until the city had been abandoned for centuries. Although the meaning of the name they gave the city, Teotihuacan, means city of gods, so I think it's safe to assume that they were impressed by what they saw. It took us about 1 hour and 15 minutes to get here on the bus, and we've been here about half an hour at this point. There is, to note, a big parking lot, so if you do have a car and you're driving, looks like there's plenty of parking. There's a parking at each one of the 5 gates. And now that we're here, it is a massive site.
Yeah, there's no way you could see it all.
So we're going to be walking around for a while. It's a beautiful day. It's really sunny. There is no shade here at all. It's not too crowded, busy but not crowded, and the signs are in English and Spanish, so I feel like we'll be able to learn a lot even without hiring a guide. This site is probably best known for its impressive stone structures, with the largest being the Pyramid of the Sun, which we'll get to shortly. However, we decided to start at the north end of the complex, so our first stop was at the Pyramid of the Moon. Based on discoveries of human and animal remains, the Pyramid of the Moon was likely the site of ritual sacrifices of both. Also in the north end of the complex, you'll find the Puma mural and the Temple of Quetzalcoatl. The Puma mural is the largest mural found on site to date, and because it was more protected than other decorated facades in the city, it has allowed archaeologists to learn more about how other buildings in the city were likely decorated. Although today you see a lot of bare stone, back in the city's heyday, it would have been incredibly colorful. The the Palace of Quetzalpopolotl has been reconstructed to show a more accurate idea of what the structures at Teotihuacan looked like in the past, with intricate carving and vibrant colors. According to a tour guide we overheard, there may have even been feathers and gemstones adorning the walls. At any rate, there was a vibrancy that we often miss in the modern day, but that you can at least see a hint of here in this palace.
So we've been here about an hour and 15 minutes. We headed right to the north end, which is where the Pyramid of the Moon is, and there's a bunch of stuff to see there, and that's what we've done so far.
With a height of 216 feet and a footprint of over 540,000 square feet at its base, the Pyramid of the Sun is one of the largest of its type in the Western Hemisphere. And if you enter the complex from Gate 2, you'll see it immediately straight ahead. Up until 2021, visitors could still climb the pyramids here, and many did. However, as we've mentioned, this is an incredibly popular destination, and in an effort to better preserve the site, scaling the pyramids was done away with when the site reopened after its COVID closure. Running from the Pyramid of the Moon on the north end of the complex, past the Pyramid of the Sun and on to the Ciudadela and the Temple of the Feathered Serpents on the south end is a wide thoroughfare called the Avenue of the Dead. Again, a name not given by its original builders. The name actually came from people in the 16th century because they thought that the structures that ran along the wide avenue were burial mounds. In actuality, this wide roadway that ran nearly 5 kilometers was the main connector of the city, linking side streets, squares, and multifamily dwellings throughout the city. We just stopped off for a quick break to get a drink and some snacks. There is not really food inside. There's just some vending machines with salty and sugary snacks and a soda machine, but it is enough to get us by now. And there is this really nice, actually, little picnic area with some shade and a good place to sit down and recharge. This area also has a botanical garden, a sculpture garden, and some of the only shade you'll find. We enjoyed a relaxed wander through the gardens as well as a visit to the on-site Museum of Teotihuacan culture. This was a really well-done museum that houses a lot of artifacts found on the site and teaches visitors about the culture of the city's inhabitants in areas like religion, art, technology, and burial practices. Discoveries seem to indicate that this city was more technologically developed than should have been possible in pre-Aztec Mexico, with advanced urban planning and architectural and agricultural practices. From here, we continued on toward the southern end of the complex. There are structures and more things to see all along the avenue, houses, pyramids, murals, but as we headed further south, things definitely felt more and more off the beaten path. The size of this site is massive, and there was still a lot of walking, and even though you can no longer climb the large pyramids, getting around still requires quite a lot of climbing large stone steps.
So it's like a lot of things. If you get away from the main part, there's no one around. Like, we had to walk probably a half mile to get out here, and we're the only ones here.
This city wasn't just about the large ceremonial structures, but has a significant city center and more than 2,000 residential complexes. A unique thing about the residences in Teotihuacan is that they are complex multi-floor apartment compounds, something not seen in smaller cities. There are just a lot of levels to some of these buildings. To date, they have found actually 8 different levels of construction, one on top of the other.
It's another example of an area that there's no one here. It's just Joyce and I, just because we had to walk a bit extra, but it's really cool. You get to like explore this old excavation site and walk through old towns and old houses, I should say. So if you have the time, definitely do some exploring here.
At the southern end of the avenue, we finally reached the former city center and the Temple of the Feathered Serpents. This temple was one of the main public buildings when it was built in 250 AD, and it features more than 366 sculptures, with the most elaborate being the stone-carved feathered serpents and jaguars. This was one of my favorite sights of the day, and I was glad we'd trekked this far, even though we were both very tired. We have been exploring for about 4 hours, 4 or 5?
5.
Okay, so we've been exploring for about 5 hours and we are tired of walking, and we've seen some great things though, and now it's time to head back to Mexico City. To catch the bus back, we exited at gate 2 where we came in, and I didn't notice a sign, but if you turn to the right, the bus will stop immediately across the street from where it dropped you off. When we left at 4 p.m., there were people gathering, and so it was easy to recognize the right spot. We had bought round-trip tickets, but we also could have paid when we boarded for the trip back.
We're back from our day at the pyramids, and we met our challenge of $40 by a lot. Our total spent was around $26.
Yep. The one thing we did have money left, we probably could have made better food choices. We actually initially thought we might have time and go over to, there's a town that's sort of nearby, you can walk or take a taxi. We were going to go over there and get some food for lunch, and it turns out we spent so much time at the pyramids that we just didn't, that was our priority. So
yeah, we ended up eating snacks out of a vending machine, which saved us some money.
So there was a cafe, but we didn't discover it until we were about ready to leave.
It's an entrance 1.
Yep. Perfect. Another place that we could have spent more money that we chose not to was hiring a guide. You can definitely hire a guide on site or come on a tour completely. We did some research beforehand. We felt like we had some good background. The signage was good. The museum was great. We just sort of prefer the freedom of being able to go wherever we want, whenever we want. You see something interesting and you just take off that direction. So for us, it was the right choice.
And since we didn't have a guide, we were just able to wander anywhere we wanted to. And we discovered in our wandering, we found places where we were the only ones there. And I think we pretty much saw the whole place, which I don't think a guide would take you to everywhere we went.
It's just a long walk from one end to the other. I know someone who was trying to sell us a tour talked about that. It was like 2 kilometers at least, walking, and I think they were trying to discourage us that we didn't want to walk that far, but it was completely worth it, and we poked around pretty good.
And some of the cooler things we saw were things we were not in the popular areas of of the site.
Yeah, the pyramids definitely get most of the attention, and I think a lot of people just see those, and we would absolutely recommend looking around further away from those and seeing what's there, because it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
One thing, I think it was January when we were there, which I think is a lower season for tourism. It was a Monday.
Monday in January
Yeah.
For a lot of things, that's about as least popular as you can get.
What you can get. And we were there in the middle of the day. We were there 11 to 4, so
Yeah.
It was pretty warm even in January, so don't forget your water.
Yep. Yeah, it's total exposure. There's no shade.
So I think that's it. We hope that this is helpful for you in making decisions about whether you want to go visit the pyramids and how you might want to do it.
So until the next one.
Enjoy your travels.